What if I told you that more than half of the cast of Holes have passed away without you even realizing it? The film once felt like an innocent childhood story, lighthearted, humorous, and full of hope. But 22 years later, the fate of its cast has been anything but gentle. Broken marriages, silent illnesses, shattered careers, and even sudden deaths that slipped by unnoticed. Let's look back at them in 2025 and honor the legacies they left behind. Shia LaBeouf as Stanley Yelnats IV. Shia Saeed. LaBeouf was born on June 11, 1986 in Los Angeles, California. At just 17 years old, he played Stanley Yelnats IV, a clumsy teenage boy burdened by a family curse, exiled to the desert and forced to grow up through pain, in Holes, 2003. The role placed Shia right on the fragile line between adolescence and adulthood. Away from the spotlight, his personal life quickly became tense and fractured. Early fame was followed by a turbulent marriage to Mia Goth, cycles of breakups and reconciliations, arguments, separation, and quiet reunions. At the same time, underlying mental health struggles emerged. PTSD, alcohol addiction, and uncontrollable impulsive behavior. The biggest collapse came when abuse allegations surfaced, pushing Shia out of major projects and forcing him to confront himself. His marriage to Mia Goth seemed finished, only to unexpectedly resume amid the chaos. During treatment, Shia wrote Honey Boy, portraying his own father on screen and exposing memories of violence and guilt. By 2025, Shia is 39 years old, living more privately, embracing fatherhood, and choosing projects carefully, favoring theater and independent films as a way to maintain balance. His estimated net worth is around $25 million, a figure still impressive, yet unable to conceal the heavy psychological cost he has paid. Khleo Thomas as Zero. Khleo Thomas was born on January 30, 1989, in Anchorage, Alaska. He was only 14 years old when he played Hector Zero Zeroni, the silent boy who is underestimated yet possesses extraordinary inner strength, in Holes, 2003. That role was a teenage breakthrough, cementing Khleo in the collective memory of an entire generation. But fame arriving too early also planted the seeds of long-term instability. His teenage years unfolded between film sets and the brutal desert, where digging holes was not just acting, but a genuine physical ordeal. The transition from child star to adult actor was anything but smooth. Major opportunities became scarce, and the pressure to escape the Zero role weighed heavily on him. Although he continued acting in projects like Roll Bounce and Hurricane Season, he struggled constantly against being typecast. Khleo eventually turned toward music and content creation as a form of self-rescue. Touring, releasing EPs, and building a personal brand were bold yet exhausting steps, demanding intense self-discipline and mental endurance. By 2025, Khleo is 36 years old, 2025 to 1989, focusing on digital creation, gaming, music, and lifestyle brands he has founded himself. His estimated net worth is around $500,000, modest compared to his level of recognition, but reflective of a fully self-driven journey. Brenden Jefferson as X-Ray. Brenden. Richard Jefferson was born on June 3, 1986, in San Bernardino, California. When he appeared in Holes, 2003, he was 17 years old, playing X-Ray, the small-framed but sharp-minded boy who sparks a fragile sense of hope among children who have been abandoned. Though technically a supporting role, X-Ray holds the emotional rhythm of the story, turning Brenden's youthful face into a quiet anchor amid the brutal desert setting. His path to Holes was far from smooth. Brenden entered the industry very early, appearing in Thea and gaining attention in The Other Me, 2000. But his teenage years became a stretch of constant tension, shaped by packed shooting schedules, expectations of early success, and the pressure to grow up fast in an industry with little patience. After Holes, he continued acting in Redemption, 2004, Yet the sense of alienation under the spotlight grew increasingly strong. The years that followed marked a period of slowing down and deep reflection about what he truly needed. Without scandals or public drama, Brenden chose to step away from acting to pursue a more stable life. His decision to transition into nursing around 2009 became a way of saving himself from the cycle of expectations and healing from years of growing up in isolation. By 2025, Brenden is 39 years old, 2025 to 1986. He lives quietly, focusing on a career in healthcare, a choice that mirrors the compassion X-Ray once embodied on screen. His estimated net worth is around $1 million, 2024, largely accumulated from his early acting career. Byron Cotton as Armpit. Byron Cotton was born around 1989. At just 18 years old, he played Armpit, the large, hot-tempered but loyal boy who embodied the bottled-up anger of abandoned adolescence. This role became the most recognizable performance of Byron's short acting career. After Holes, he appeared in The Shield, 2002, and later Extreme Movie, 2008, a shift toward adult comedy that failed to provide a real breakthrough. Unlike many other child actors, Byron never had a clear roadmap to remain in Hollywood, and he gradually disappeared from the screen while still very young. That silence was not accompanied by public scandal or controversy, but rather mirrored the fate of many former child actors. Fame arrived too early, then faded before adulthood had a chance to take shape. Armpit became his sole defining mark, and also a kind of memory box that tied Byron Cotton's name to Holes for many years afterward. By 2025, Byron is around 36 years old, almost entirely absent from the media. His estimated net worth is only about $100,000, 2024, derived mostly from his roles during adolescence. Jake M. Smith as Squid. Jake M. Smith was born on September 14, 1984 in Queens, New York. When he appeared in Holes, 2003, he was 19 years old playing Squid, the dreamy boy who uses imagination as an escape from the harsh reality of the digging camp. This was Jake's breakthrough role after years of working in Shakespearean theater and independent projects since his early teens. Before Holes, Jake had already been immersed in the arts thanks to his mother, a stage actress, traveling extensively with theater productions from a young age. He performed Cymbeline at Shakespeare in the Park at just 13, then appeared in Law and Order, SVU, 2003, and Law and Order, Criminal Intent, 2004. However, after 2004, his acting career slowed noticeably. There were no scandals, no controversies, just a quiet withdrawal as he gradually realized he wanted to devote himself to education and community work rather than the spotlight of Hollywood. Jake transitioned into the field of education, becoming Dean of Students at the Institute for Collaborative Education, IC in Manhattan, an alternative school where he actively organizes fundraising initiatives and supports students' creative development. It was a rare choice for a young actor who once had a defining role, but one that clearly reflected his grounded and pragmatic character. By 2025, Jake is 41 years old, living between New York and California, and is almost entirely absent from on-camera work. His estimated net worth is around $500,000, largely derived from his early acting roles. For Jake, Holes was not a launch pad to climb higher, but a doorway that helped him discover a different path, quiet, yet enduring. Sigourney Weaver as the Warden. Sigourney Weaver was born on October 8, 1949 in New York City. She was 54 years old when she played the Warden, a powerful, ruthless woman who controls everything through fear, in Holes, 2003. This was a period when Sigourney deliberately diversified her screen image, moving away from the familiar female hero archetype and stepping into the darker realm of authority and domination. That icy performance reflected a toughness forged through years of gender-based pressure in Hollywood. Unlike many of her peers, Sigourney's marriage to Jim Simpson has remained intact since 1984, but it has not been easy. Long stretches of filming away from home, from Avatar to international projects, left her carrying deep guilt toward her daughter, Shar. Sigourney has openly admitted to undergoing therapy to cope with that guilt, as work repeatedly pulled her away from family life. That quiet sacrifice wore down her spirit no less than a public divorce might have. Alongside family strain was a prolonged professional battle. Sigourney was repeatedly doubted simply for being a tall woman in action cinema, forced to constantly prove herself through Alien, Gorillas in the Mist, and The Ice Storm. She lived with the accumulated fatigue, both physical and psychological, of a career spanning more than 4 decades, where every role demanded iron discipline. By 2025, Sigourney is 76 years old, still active on stage and on film sets, continuing to perform Shakespeare and headline major projects. Her estimated net worth of around $60 million reflects a rare success, a female actor who outlasted and overcame entrenched gender bias. Jon Voight as Mr. Sir. Jonathan Vincent Voight was born on December 29, 1938 in Yonkers, New York. He was 65 years old when he played Mr. Sir, the harsh, cold, authoritarian camp manager who embodied indifferent, power-crushing, vulnerable youth in Holes, 2003. The role came when Voight's career was fully matured. He no longer needed flamboyance to dominate the screen. It was a character with few lines but lasting impact, reflecting the rigidity that has followed him throughout his life. Beyond cinematic acclaim, Jon Voight's personal life fractured deeply. His marriage to Marceline Bertrand, the mother of Angelina Jolie and James Haven, ended in a prolonged and painful separation, leaving behind a family that never truly healed. The rift went beyond private conflict and became a public wound when Voight repeatedly criticized his daughter in the media, calling Angelina mentally unstable, creating a distance between father and child that seems beyond repair. Voight's later years have been far from peaceful. He has lived amid political controversy, with outspoken conservative views sharply polarizing public opinion and overshadowing the artistic legacy once widely celebrated. Romantic relationships after his divorce, with Rebecca De Mornay, Barbra Streisand, and Diana Ross, never led to lasting commitment. While on screen he often portrayed deeply flawed fathers, off-screen that role has been just as conflicted and painful. By 2025, Jon Voight is 87 years old, still appearing in film projects, and serving as an advisor, carrying an estimated net worth of $55 million accumulated over decades of acting. Yet for many audiences, his greatest loss has not been financial. The most valuable inheritance, his family, was lost piece by piece, leaving his later years marked by both towering fame and profound loneliness. Eartha Kitt as Madame Zeroni. Eartha Mae Kitt was born on January 17, 1927, in North South Carolina. At 76 years old, she played Madame Zeroni, the mysterious woman at the origin of a curse spanning generations, in Holes, 2003. The role felt prophetic, as Eartha's own life was marked by pain, exile, and an extraordinary strength of survival. It became her final, deeply symbolic screen appearance. In real life, Eartha Kitt's marriage was brief but violent. Her union with John William MacDonald quickly turned into a private hell, forcing her to leave in order to protect herself and her daughter, Kit Shapiro. As a black woman who had endured abuse from childhood and systemic racism, Eartha entered marriage already carrying deep scars. After the divorce, she lived as a single mother, raising her child while moving across the world after being blacklisted by Hollywood for her anti-war speech at the White House. In later years, even as she made a powerful comeback on stage in Timbuktu and voiced Isma in The Emperor's New Groove, Eartha's body began to betray her. Colon cancer quietly consumed her strength, yet she continued to perform, standing on stage, smiling, singing, refusing to allow herself to appear weak. Her daughter witnessed the intensity of her final days. Tragically, Eartha Kitt passed away on December 25, 2008, at the age of 81 at her home in Weston, Connecticut, due to complications from colon cancer. She left behind an estimated net worth of around $4 million, accumulated through music, film, and theater. Small compared to the cultural impact she left on the world. Ravil Isyanov as Morris Menke. Ravil Isyanov was born on August 20, 1962, in Voskresensk, Moscow Oblast, in the Soviet Union, now Russia. He was 41 years old when he played Morris Menke, a cold, minor character representing the indifferent machinery of the prison camp, in Holes, 2003. At that time, Ravil was quietly building his career in Hollywood, carrying a distinctly Russian intensity in every glance. The role reflected his own immigrant life, defined by discipline and solitude. Ravil's path was never easy. After graduating from the Moscow Art Theater, serving in the Soviet Air Force, and leaving his homeland for England in 1990, he carried artistic ambition, but was forced to start again from nothing. Constant migration from Russia to England and then to the United States eroded his family life and pushed him to accept rigid supporting roles simply to survive, such as in K-19, The Widowmaker and Defiance. In the years that followed, Ravil became a familiar face playing Russian characters in American productions, from NCIS, Los Angeles to The Americans. Steady work, but never a true breakthrough. Then, illness struck. Cancer over a 17-month period quietly devastated his strength, yet he continued to work, appearing on set as if unwilling to surrender. Sadly, Ravil Isyanov passed away on September 29, 2021, in Los Angeles, at the age of 59, after a long battle with cancer. With an estimated net worth of around $1 million, he died at home, far from the country of his birth, leaving behind his family and more than 70 screen roles as evidence of a lifetime of persistent artistic labor. Scott Plank as Trout Walker. Scott Chapman Plank was born on November 11, 1958 in Washington, D.C., United States. At 44 years old, he played Trout Walker, the rough, greedy, and brutal antagonist, in Holes, 2003. It was Scott's final film role, completed quietly. He did not live to see the movie's release. Scott's private life was not marked by public scandal, but it was weighed down by the instability of the profession. With a background in Broadway theater, long touring runs with a chorus line, and appearances in Dreamgirls, Scott transitioned into film through supporting action roles. Miami Vice, Air America, always at the edge of the spotlight. Over time, he accepted working behind the scenes as a way to continue standing on stage sets and film lots. Just as his career was beginning to stabilize, tragedy struck. A sudden car accident left Scott critically injured. 3 days later, he passed away, while Holes had not yet completed post-production. Scott Plank died on October 24, 2002, in Los Angeles, at the age of 43, due to complications from a traffic accident. His death came too quickly, cutting short every future plan. The film was later dedicated to him, a belated farewell from Hollywood. His estimated net worth was around $1 million, accumulated from television and theater, small compared to the loss of an artist who passed away before seeing his final role come alive on screen. Patricia Arquette as Kissin' Kate Barlow. Patricia Arquette was born on April 8, 1968, in Chicago, Illinois. At 35 years old, she played Kissin' Kate Barlow, a woman of striking beauty who is betrayed and transforms love into vengeance, in Holes, 2003. This was a period when Patricia was at the height of her acting powers, with enough lived experience to shape a character that was both romantic and ruthless. The role felt like a sweet cut, leaving behind a bitter aftertaste. Behind the glamour were years of marital tension. Her brief marriage to Nicolas Cage ended quickly, bringing intense media pressure and a sense of disorientation. When she later entered a relationship with Thomas Jane, Patricia became a mother while simultaneously filming Boyhood over 12 years, leaving family life strained by distance and time apart. She was constantly torn between the responsibilities of motherhood and the unforgiving demands of her profession, while her body endured an unrelenting work pace. After her second divorce, Patricia poured herself entirely into acting as a form of self-rescue. Medium earned her an Emmy, while Escape at Dannemora and The Act required physical transformation and deep psychological excavation to the point of exhaustion. These roles were not merely successes, they became vessels through which she released personal pain. Acting turned into therapy, but also a double-edged blade that drained her life energy. By 2025, Patricia is 57 years old, living independently, continuing to take on high-quality television roles and remaining active in social causes. Her estimated net worth is around $24 million, accumulated through film and television. Tim Blake Nelson as Dr. Pendanski. Tim Blake Nelson was born on May 11, 1964, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. When he appeared in Holes, 2003, he was 39 years old and played Dr. Steve Pendanski, a seemingly encouraging counselor whose constant positivity masks psychological manipulation of the boys under his control. The role appears light on the surface, yet conceals a distinctly adult cruelty. Off-screen, Tim's life has been free of scandal, but marked by sustained, grinding pressure. His marriage to Lisa Benavides Nelson, beginning in 1994, has been stable, yet came with the responsibility of raising 3 sons amid relentless work schedules. Constantly shifting between roles, from Minority Report to Syriana, forced him to sacrifice family time, the ongoing burden of a character actor without the protections of stardom. Tim sought release through intense creative labor, writing plays, directing, and adapting morally heavy material such as The Gray Zone. These projects demanded not only intellectual rigor, but also emotional depletion as he repeatedly confronted humanity's darkest ethical corners. Recognition arrived late, with The Ballad of Buster Scruggs and Watchmen, feeling more like a reward for endurance than early acclaim. By 2025, Tim is 61 years old, continuing to act, write novels, and direct independent films. His estimated net worth of around $5 million is modest compared to his professional influence. Dule Hill as Sam. Dule Hill was born on May 3, 1975 in Orange, New Jersey. He was 28 years old when he played Sam, the gentle onion seller and the emotional core of a tragic multi-generational love story, in Holes, 2003. The role was brief but left a lasting ache, almost like a quiet premonition of the personal losses that would follow. After the success of The West Wing, the pressure of early fame quickly strained Dule's personal life. His marriage to Nicole Lynn, 2004 to 2012, ended quietly, leaving behind a prolonged sense of failure and emotional emptiness. During that period, he continued working steadily, appearing in Psych and on stage. But behind the scenes, he was a man learning how to start over, healing from marital trauma while trying not to lose faith in the idea of family. Remarrying Jasmine Simon in 2018 and welcoming their son Levi in 2019 did not come easily, but marked the result of a late, hard-earned maturation. His years on Suits and The Wonder Years reflected a more grounded Dule, one who knew when to step back to protect his mental and emotional health. There were no major physical illnesses, but the emotional fractures left by his first divorce once pushed him into a deep identity crisis. By 2025, Dule is 50 years old, continuing to act in television, directing, participating in SAG-AFTRA union activities, and caring for his family. His estimated net worth is around $8 million, accumulated largely from long-running television work. Yet his greatest value lies not in numbers, but in having moved through collapse to rebuild a lasting home. Henry Winkler, as Stanley Yelnats III. Henry Winkler was born on October 30th, 1945, in New York City. When he appeared in Holes, 2003, he was 58 years old, playing Stanley Yelnats III, the gentle father who spends his entire life carrying the weight of a generational curse. This role came at a moment when Henry was making a strong return after years of being trapped in the overwhelming shadow of the Fonz. The performance was quiet, understated, yet filled with the depth of a man who had endured failure and long patience. Few people knew that behind his warm smile lay a childhood and early adulthood marked by pain. Henry lived nearly half his life without knowing he had dyslexia, enduring scolding from his father, being labeled incompetent by teachers, and growing up with almost no self-esteem. When his career exploded with Happy Days, he faced another tragedy. Hollywood gradually turned its back on him because he was too closely associated with the Fonz. For many years, even though he maintained a stable marriage with Stacy Weitzman since 1978 and raised 3 children, Henry carried a crushing sense of professional failure that weighed heavily on his inner life. Only later in life did Henry transform that pain into strength. He wrote the Hank Zipser book series, inspired directly by his own dyslexia, as a way of healing the child who had once been dismissed as stupid. His triumphant return with Arrested Development and later Barry, where he won an Emmy in 2018, was not merely a professional success, but a long overdue recognition of a life that never gave up. By 2025, Henry is 80 years old, still writing, acting selectively, and appearing publicly with rare calm and grace. His estimated net worth is around $40 million, accumulated from television, film, and children's literature. Shelley Malil as Nosy Landlord. Shelley Matthew Malil was born on December 23, 1964, in Kerala, India. At 39 years old, he played the Nosy Landlord, a brief, comedic supporting role that perfectly suited his restrained acting style. At that time, Shelley was still regarded as a reliable character actor in Hollywood, appearing steadily in both film and television. No one could have imagined that this period would mark the final calm before his life collapsed completely. Behind the scenes, Shelley's romantic life was tense and deeply unstable. He was involved in a relationship with Kendra Beebe, a woman significantly younger than him, and the relationship quickly spiraled into jealousy, control, and emotional conflict. Professional disappointments, pressure from aging, and the fear of being forgotten gradually pushed Shelley further out of psychological balance. While audiences continued to remember him for warm, likable roles, such as in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, in real life his loneliness and mental instability were silently suffocating him day by day. The tragedy erupted when Shelley attacked Kendra Beebe with a knife, leaving her with physical and psychological injuries that could never be erased. A lengthy prison sentence instantly ended his acting career. Shelley fell straight to the bottom of society, where there were no lights, no cameras, only late remorse and prolonged silence. By 2025, Shelley is 61 years old, living quietly after being released early, completely removed from Hollywood. His estimated net worth is only around $10,000, largely depleted by imprisonment and legal costs. 22 years have passed since Holes closed the dry pits of Camp Green Lake, but the destinies of its cast have each gone in very different directions. Looking back at them in 2025, what makes us emotional is not only the passage of time, but the price paid after childhood in the spotlight. Whose fate surprised you the most? If you still remember the feeling of watching Holes for the first time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment so we can continue this emotional then and now journey through the childhood films that shaped an entire generation.